The movie unfolds in the early days of London, where we are introduced to a dedicated nurse named Val, grappling with the haunting shadows of her past. Val's life is overshadowed by a profound fear of darkness, a phobia deeply rooted in a traumatic childhood experience. This condition manifests intensely in her. In the grip of darkness, her breathing becomes labored, her blood pressure skyrockets, and she is drenched in sweat. To cope, Val has meticulously structured her life to work solely under the comforting embrace of daylight. As the narrative progresses, we witness Val embarking on a new chapter in her career at an East London hospital. It's a critical time, as the city braces itself for impending blackouts. The hospital staff are in a flurry of preparation, anticipating the challenges these power outages will bring. Upon her arrival, Val is greeted by the matron nurse, a figure of authority who embodies strict discipline. The matron outlines the hospital's stringent rules: adherence to doctor's orders, no casual conversations, no makeup, and a ban on short skirts. Through these interactions, we learn more about Val's personal history. She is an orphan with no family ties, having been raised in the Our Lady of Grace Children's Home, and her faith as a devoted Catholic is a cornerstone of her identity. Val's journey takes a turn when she is assigned to the gynecology ward. It is here that she encounters Saba, a Bangladeshi immigrant discovered in the nurse's washroom. Saba's backstory is equally deep. She hails from a refugee camp, a stark aftermath of the harrowing 1971 Bangladesh genocide. Many like her sought refuge in England, often living in dire conditions in makeshift camps. Saba is under the care of Dr. Franklin, suffering from liver-related health issues. Dr. Franklin is visibly frustrated with Saba, as she seems indifferent to her medical regimen and often wanders away from her designated areas. Val, however, approaches Saba with kindness and empathy, ensuring she takes her medicine and offering her support in this unfamiliar environment. Soon after, Val's professional aptitude catches the eye of Dr. Franklin during a medical discussion. Impressed by her knowledge and insight, Dr. Franklin requests the matron to assign Val to his ward. The matron reluctantly agrees, yet she can't hide her disapproval. She sternly warns Val that blind obedience to superiors is the only way to ensure safety and comfort in the hospital. Ignoring this advice, she implies, could lead to dire consequences. In a twist of fate, the matron punishes Val for her perceived disobedience by assigning her to the night shift, a daunting prospect given Val's crippling fear of the dark. Val, however, remains silent about her phobia, fearing the risk it poses to her job security. As evening approaches, the hospital braces for the anticipated blackouts. Staff members hustle to transfer patients and children to another facility equipped with power. In this hospital, only the ICU ward remains powered. The children's ward, including the patients there, is among those evacuated, and we see Saba being moved as well. Val, as part of her punishment, is tasked with cleaning the walls of the ward, a job typically not assigned to nurses. It's unclear whether this was a standard practice at the time, but Val takes on this task without complaint. During her cleaning, she notices a poster advocating for the reporting of any violence within the hospital, highlighting an undercurrent of issues within the institution. While cleaning a vent covered in thick, foul-smelling black mold, Val experiences a chilling incident. The door to the storeroom mysteriously opens on its own, accompanied by a strange crackling sound. Upon investigating, an unseen force violently expels her from the room. This encounter leaves Val both frightened and bewildered. As the evening progresses and the hospital prepares for the blackout, the power fails earlier than expected. In the midst of this chaos, only 3 other nurses, including Val, are on the night shift. Although Val was supposed to be on the 4th floor, she inadvertently finds herself in the maternity ward on the 2nd floor, where she encounters 2 other nurses, Comfort and Terry. In the next sequence, Comfort, one of the nurses, leads Val to the 3rd floor of the hospital. There, they encounter Barb, a senior nurse who expresses surprise at seeing Val. Barb and Val share a common past. Both grew up in the same orphanage, and Barb is familiar with Val's history. Barb's personality starkly contrasts with Val's. She's portrayed as bold, somewhat mean-spirited and ambitious, with her sights set on a life of comfort and security. Driven by the societal notion that working women were more likely to receive favorable marriage proposals, Barb chose nursing as her profession, aiming to marry a wealthy man. This sad reflection on societal norms underscores the different paths and choices made by these two characters. The hospital is running on a generator to power the ICU during the blackout. However, during a conversation between Val and Barb, this generator fails, plunging the hospital into total darkness. This sudden blackout triggers Val's deep-seated fear of the dark, as Barb hurries to secure emergency battery backups, taking Val's lamp with her. Val is left to confront her terror alone in the pitch-black environment. Frantically, she attempts to find a candle, but her panic escalates when she hears an eerie voice calling her name from the shadows. In this vulnerable state, someone suddenly grabs Val from behind, causing her to fall to the ground. The power flickers back on at this moment, revealing Barb accompanied by the security in charge, Neville. Neville introduces himself to Val, but his manner of speaking immediately gives away his inappropriate character. A disturbing scene unfolds where Neville is seen bothering Barb. Despite Barb's apparent cooperation, there's a clear sense of distress and anguish in her manner. This interaction not only reveals Neville's predatory behavior but also highlights the complex and often distressing dynamics that women like Barb navigate, sometimes feeling compelled to endure such behavior for the sake of their personal ambitions or societal pressures. In a later scene, Barb takes a moment to impart some hard-earned wisdom to Val. She explains that in this hospital environment, climbing the career ladder often involves unquestioning obedience to those in power. Barb's warning is clear. Val needs to be strong and prepared for the challenges and compromises that come with working in such a place. This conversation sheds light on the harsh realities of the hospital's culture and the difficult choices facing the staff. After their talk, Barb sends Val to the first floor to retrieve some files. Due to her fear of the dark, Val moves cautiously and slowly through the dimly lit corridors. Meanwhile, Neville is busy locking doors throughout the hospital, a precaution against potential looters during the blackout. Val's journey takes her to Neville's chamber, a place that unnerves her deeply. The walls are covered with adult posters, and Neville boasts a disturbing treasure collection of nurse photos. This grim discovery reveals the extent of physical violence in the hospital, with doctors exploiting nurses and Neville facilitating these abuses. Val's fear intensifies upon witnessing this, and she quickly leaves Neville's chamber. As Val makes her way back, she experiences another terrifying encounter with an unseen force that attempts to lift her skirt. Panicked and disoriented, she runs blindly through the dark corridors, eventually finding herself in the basement. There, she encounters a dog doll emitting strange noises. When she touches it, something unseen grabs her and drags her away forcefully. In a series of rapid, disorienting scenes, the film shows Neville burning in his chamber and Barb being assaulted in a gruesome manner. The next time we see Val, she is in the maternity ward, looking disheveled and in shock, with no memory of the recent events that transpired or who was responsible. Terry, another nurse, provides Val with a new set of clothes to replace her dirty ones. Amidst this turmoil, they hear a noise in the ward. Upon investigating, they find Saba, who was supposed to have been transferred to another hospital. In a state of agitation, Saba tries to explain something to Terry and Comfort in Bangla, the national language of Bangladesh, but they fail to understand her. Val steps in to calm Saba down, offering her a cookie. When Val checks Saba's sketchbook, she finds a series of eerie drawings that suggest Saba too might be terrified of something. In a dramatic turn of events, Val is suddenly overtaken by an unseen malevolent force, causing her great pain and distress. She collapses in front of her colleagues Terry and Comfort. After a few terrifying minutes, Val returns to her normal state but has no recollection of the harrowing experience. Terry, visibly shaken by what she perceives as a demonic possession, decides to escape the hospital. She plans a daring escape through a window, using a nearby pipe to climb down, a clear indication that despite her initial bravery, the fear of supernatural forces has overwhelmed her. Terry's knowledge, possibly gleaned from horror literature, has convinced her that what they are witnessing is beyond natural explanation. Comfort, on the other hand, remains skeptical about the idea of demonic possession and chooses to stay back to care for the babies in the ward. She then urges Val to return to her own ward. As Val is about to leave, she sees a reflection in the glass of a little girl, the ghost who has been possessing her, known as Dirty Gail, by the hospital staff. In a chilling moment, Dirty Gail takes control of Val, forcing her to injure herself with a pair of scissors. Comfort rushes to Val's aid, bandaging her wound and stabilizing her as she loses consciousness. Val experiences a nightmare where Dirty Gail is chasing her and Saba. Awakening in shock, she finds Saba by her side, who shows her a photo of Gail and communicates in broken English that Gail is compelling her to act against her will. Gail then confronts Comfort directly, expressing her frustration at being ignored despite her attempts to communicate. Comfort, terrified and witnessing possession for the first time, tries to sedate Val, but Gail, through Val, resists and turns the injection on Comfort. In a panic, Comfort grabs Saba and attempts to escape through the window. Saba, fearing the height, refuses to follow. Comfort proceeds alone but loses her balance due to the effects of the sedative, falling from the pipe. Meanwhile, Gail turns her haunting attention to Barb, who knew of Gail's suffering but chose to remain silent. Barb acknowledges her mistake and promises to reveal the truth, but Gail, driven by her vengeful spirit, attacks and kills her. When Val finally comes out of the possession, she has no memory of the recent events. She asks Saba to stay away from her for safety and starts to leave the hospital. On her way out, she discovers the dead bodies of Barb and Neville, and horrifying visions reveal Neville's attack on Gail, followed by her murder and the disposal of her body with her dog doll in the furnace. Barb had witnessed these atrocities but remained silent, reflecting the pervasive culture of physical violence in the hospital. The next morning, Val wakes up in a bed, and Saba arrives with an interpreter, a trainee doctor from West Bengal, India, who speaks Hindi and other languages, including Bangla. Saba reveals that Gail is not inherently evil and had protected her until morning. As Saba begins to divulge disturbing details about the doctor's misconduct, the interpreter, angered by her revelations, scolds her in Hindi and abruptly drags her away without translating her words. In the gripping climax of the story, the narrative takes us through a series of intense and revealing moments at the hospital. Dr. Franklin, the hospital's head, accompanied by the department head and the matron, visits Val. They are there to discuss Val's belief in the existence of a ghost named Gail, a theory they learned about through Comfort, another character. Val is convinced that Gail sought vengeance against Neville for her death and implicates Barb in the conspiracy, leading to her demise as well. The department head, skeptical of Val's claims, references a troubling incident from her childhood, attempting to discredit her. However, the story takes a darker turn when Val experiences another episode of possession. In this instance, Gail, the ghost, compels Val to draw a picture of Dr. Franklin. This alarming development drives Val to seek out Saba, only to discover her with Dr. Franklin, who is in the process of transferring her to another facility. Dr. Franklin is visibly irritated upon seeing Val, and as they walk together, Val signals Saba to escape. During their walk, Val questions Dr. Franklin about his visits to the basement, a question he perceives as a threat. He responds by forcibly taking Val to the basement, revealing he has a key. It's here that the narrative delves into Val's traumatic past, recounting how her headmaster assaulted her during her early years. Despite Val's attempts to speak out, she was silenced and discredited by nurses, teachers, and police, accused of fabricating the story for attention. In the basement, a defiant Val maintains her belief in Gail's existence, a claim starkly denied by the hospital head, who insists no child named Gail was ever there. This denial visibly unsettles the matron, who is aware of Gail's reality. As Val calls out for Gail, Dr. Franklin mocks her, boasting about the unchecked power men wield in the hospital and society, especially during the era in which the movie is set. His arrogance is palpable as he prepares to assault Val. The situation escalates when Saba arrives, infuriating Dr. Franklin. In a dramatic turn of events, Gail possesses Val, using her to launch a powerful attack on Dr. Franklin, which ultimately leads to his demise. The film reaches its resolution as Val, Saba, and Gail depart the hospital with the matron's help. The matron commends Val for her bravery and truthfulness, qualities she admits she lacked. In a final, chilling twist, the hospital's head receives a call from Gail, who warns of further repercussions unless the corrupt culture is changed, holding him accountable for the hospital's actions. The movie concludes on this note, exposing consequences of silence and the power of speaking out against injustice. Did this story spook you out? Let us know in the comments below. For more horror movie recaps, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you in the next one. Fear awaits you.